What's up, Dragon Brood? Today we're going to talk about how you can find, buy, and make good deals on these collections that are out in the world, because so many of you have had questions since you saw my last video where we got $11,000 worth of cards for about 1,300 bucks. So yes, that does sound unbelievable, but it is out there. Now admittedly, that's not the norm, but just to find any deals out there can seem very difficult for some of you. So hopefully this clarifies some things. So let's hop into it and pick up some clues, some details, some skills on how you too can buy some of these collections. Now, first things first, I do get people asking, where should I look for these? Well, the truth is everywhere, but the easiest way is technology. Have those work for you. So believe it or not, being part of Facebook groups or even just checking the Facebook marketplace is a good place to start. And yes, it's a spot where everybody's looking, but honestly, you'd be amazed at things that fall through the cracks and the things that just sit there for a while. Also, any of the other apps or websites like Craigslist or OfferUp or LetGo, things like that, those are all places you can find cards. And I've used them all at one time or another. Another thing is, if you're in any type of local social groups, there's a lot of people that get rid of stuff. Hell, what a lot of people don't know is even the Goodwill has its own website where you can buy Magic cards off of it. They're like auction style, but even then, if you know what you're looking for, there's some deals to be had there also. So they're all over the place. You kind of just have to keep your eyes open and look around. You may not have thought about any of those sources, or you may have used them for other things and maybe even not thought about using them for Magic, but that is a very good resource. So use all of those. Now, other than just knowing where to look for them, you have to know what to look for when you're looking to buy them. So the first thing I say is look at the price, obviously. I think that's the one everybody gets. But also look at how long the item has been up, because that's one of the things I run into a lot. Sometimes I will mark things and say, okay, let me come back to this in 3 weeks and see if it's still listed. Because a lot of times that means there's either something wrong with it, or maybe the person didn't post enough in the pictures that it's turned off a lot of other buyers. So now when you reach out, you're going to be one of the only people that has reached out to them. And I've had that happen multiple times, mostly because the person who posts it just doesn't put the best pictures or the most information. So if it comes up short, they're not going to get as many buyers. So then you can kind of wheel and deal the way you want. The other thing too is, if you're getting stuff or at least looking at things that have been up for a while, the seller is more likely to deal. And that's something other people don't realize. Like, you can't walk in and just ask for a deal when somebody just put something up 8 hours ago, but it's been up for 6 weeks. Well, now you can go ahead and make a better deal on it. So keep an eye out for that type of stuff as well. Now, another tip that's worked very well for me many times is look for the things outside of your metro area. And that sounds a little weird, but for instance, let's say you're in some metro area, right? And somebody lives in a little town out here, but the difference between here and here is about 45 minutes to an hour. That automatically takes out a lot of buyers. People will buy stuff when it's just across town, a 15-20 minute drive, but once it's further out, you won't be able to get it. And in this case, the most recent collection I bought, it was about 45, I'm actually close to an hour out of where I normally live. And I already live a little outside of the major metro area. So, for some of those buyers that say lived in the heart of the city, that might have been an hour and 15 minutes, hour and 20 minutes for them. That reduces those people's interest in going to making the buy. On top of other issues where the person didn't post the best pictures, they didn't have the best information. So there was already other things going against them on top of that. So I was one of the only ones that really took them up on it. Another thing though is, even with all those things being in place for me, I still had to find out more information. So I have a personal 3-question rule. And I have this because what happens is sometimes you can annoy the seller if you're asking too many questions. Now, I know you want to get the most information before you buy, and I totally say you should do that. However, you also have to feel out your negotiating partner to see how they feel about it. Because some people many people are looking for the least effort way to get rid of their stuff. So once they start having to go back and forth and answer all these questions, and you're asking them to go look up stuff and take more pictures, and they already become disinterested, and they're not even going to respond to you. So I normally try to get as much as I can from whatever they post and ask whatever relevant question I think I need. And I try to keep it to 3. It's usually going to be, hey, what is the total estimated number of cards? It doesn't have to be exact, just like, hey, can you give me a rough number? Sometimes it could just be, hey, are any of these cards as old or as new as XYZ, right? Just based on the pictures, I just want to verify what I'm seeing. So that way, even if I don't get all the details before I show up, I at least get enough of an idea that I know what's in those boxes already. Another good question can just be like, hey, is there something here that, have the cards been picked over, right? That's something else I've asked. Like, have you sold a lot of singles out of here? Or when was the last time you sold some singles out of this collection? Because that's other information too. If they've been selling stuff steadily for, I don't know, maybe over the course of the last 2 years because they're trying to pay bills or whatever, then a lot of it may not be there. And that could be a reason you don't see a lot of the things you don't see in the pictures. But there's a lot of times you find out, like, oh no, they've not sold anything and it's all been what you thought it was. Great. Now, even with that, you're probably asking yourself, well, how can I just trust whatever the seller is telling me? Because they want to obviously get me to buy it. Well, at that point, you still get to look at the stuff before you buy it. Now, there are some people will post like, I don't want a bunch of people coming to my house going through stuff. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. Like, and those people, I just have to lowball, because if I'm not going to get any idea of what's in there other than what you posted up, and I don't think that's a good representation, well, I can't make a top dollar offer. But there's a lot of people they scare away as well. So sometimes just making your lowball pitch is going to be good enough. Now, the other thing too is trying to understand how you're going to pay for whatever the collection is you're buying, right? Some people only want cash. Some people use any of the, whatever you want to call it, the different mobile apps, right? I use them all. I literally have all of them on my phone, have access to any of them to make all of my transactions easy. However, even in this most recent case, the person wanted cash only, but I wasn't going to go to a stranger's house with cash, obviously. But I told them I would be willing to meet them at their house since it looked like it was several pieces of product, different boxes, bags, whatever. So that also was appealing to them because they don't have to take it anywhere. So you're kind of winning the person over in that exchange. Now, that being said, I also looked up where my bank was in relation to their house. So I'm like, cool, I can go make that deal. If we agree, then I can just hustle over. It's going to be like 2 minutes, go get the money at the bank, and then come right back over, right? Or you could drive back with me to the bank or whatever it is. And that's the easiest thing. I would never recommend taking a pocket of cash to somebody's place you don't know, even if you have somebody go with you. It's just not a good deal. Have I done it before? Yes, but I don't recommend it. But if somebody wants cash, you got to do what you got to do. Usually just meet in like the parking lot of a bank or a police station or whatever. Some places can have a bunch of cameras just in case. I will tell you, so far I've not had any issues. 99.9% of the people you run into are going to be honest, but you never know. There's wild cards out there. Okay, so let's say up to this point, you found the things online. You got the information you wanted. You've agreed to a price, assuming everything checks out. So now you're going in to check on the product. But when you get there, let's use this most recent one as an example for me, right? Because I think what blew some people away on the streams and whatnot is when they heard that I said I bought most of it just looking at a few pages in the binder. I didn't even have to look through those bags in detail. Well, here's why. I took the person's information, which to this point, everything they said checked out. I'd asked a few questions online. They gave me some other information because we opened up the line of communication. They've been super friendly, honest the whole way. So I had no reason to distrust anything they were saying. And some of this just comes down to dealing with people, and you're going to have to figure that out. I kind of knew the time frame the person played, and that checked out with the cards that I saw. And in the binder, I saw, I think it was like either four of the 5 Hatreds. I saw some Ink Moth Nexus. I saw 1 or 2 other things that were in the like $40, $50 range, right? And that was over just a few pages of flipping the binder. So I knew that binder was going to get me somewhere around that $1,300 mark, just because of the cards I saw in there and kind of duplicates and things. But I also spoke to the seller to try to understand kind of how they had been sorting and get an idea of where things might be. And then after talking to them, I understood that they tried to sort all the rares into the binder. However, I also understood the time period that they played. So then I put that information together with the fact that they had these bags of commons, so I just grabbed a couple of handfuls of commons, flipped through them really quickly, and saw some of those different, like Mirage and whatnot, that didn't actually have different color expansion symbols. And I saw 1 or 2 cards in there that were some of the lower rares, but rares nonetheless, and that told me that not all the rares got sorted into the binders for various reasons. So I knew that I was going to get my money back at least from the binders. I also was pretty sure that each of those bags would have been at least around $100. So putting that all together, I figured I'd be making somewhere between like $2,000 and maybe $3,000, and that still would have been pretty good all told. However, the more I thought about it, I was seeing duplicates, even up to playsets, of some of the more important cards and valuable cards of some different decks from that era of time, which then told me there's a good chance if I do find those other cards, I'm going to find duplicates of those as well, and that kind of got me a little more excited. So I was pretty certain, even though some people questioned when I talked about it in Discord and stuff, if it was going to be a risk, I didn't feel any risk at all. Now, admittedly, I didn't know it was going to be as big as it was, but I knew that it at least had a significant chance of an upside. So sometimes just getting that understanding of where things come from, how it's been sorted, all that information can give you a better idea of what it is you're buying. Unless you have the time and you agree with the seller to sit and go through all the cards, which I have done that before with somebody. It took like 3 hours on an afternoon and got even more information. And honestly, that's probably the absolute best way, but a lot of times it just doesn't work out conveniently because one, you're with a stranger, and the other is you're kind of having to agree on a place that either they invite you into their home or y'all are going to hang out at the back of this person's trunk in front of wherever this building is, that you're going to do whatever you do, right? That's sometimes just doesn't work. So finding those shortcuts and understanding things helps so very much. Now, once you have your hands on the cards, you're going to have to understand how you're going to move the cards. That's one of the biggest things when it comes to collectibles that you've just been storing or collections or cards that you have bought. You have to have effectively an exit strategy. Understand how this is going to be moved. How am I going to make my money? What's the fastest way? How fast do you need a return on your money? Right? There's a lot of those things that can determine how you deal with it. Could you get a higher maximum value if you spent more time moving it? Absolutely. But that's a lot of extra time. And the longer you take, that money you spend on it to try to turn into more money isn't liquid. It's sitting in cards. So you want to be able to sell those so you can turn those into other things. So sometimes you just take the quickest path while you're still making a profit. Oftentimes it's going to mean going to dealers, going to vendors at shows, whatever it is, just to move it quickly and get out from under it. However, if you do have the time, you can do stuff like I do, and I go to Cardsphere and I put my stuff on there and I can sell it at the price I want and I can take my time. But you have to understand there are costs involved. Pretty much every site you use is going to have somewhere between like a 7 and 12% rates that they're going to take for various fees. You're also going to have cost of shipping or postage, any of your supplies, we're talking about top loaders, sleeves, packaging, whether that's envelopes or whatever, all of that's going to be included. So as an example of this 11,000, I might only realize maybe somewhere between $7,300 and $8,000, which that's still a lot, but it is a 25 to 30% off the top sometimes, depending on how you want to look at it. That's just the cost of doing business, and you have to understand that. There's a lot of different fees and things involved with how you deal with it. Now, if I want to take longer to move it, and maybe I want to put stuff on a TCGPlayer store, or maybe I want to take my time going to different shows, or I don't know, talking to other locals and whatnot, and doing it that way, absolutely. However, I already took some time to give deals to my viewers, followers, whatever, which by the way, if you saw stuff in the video that you want, hop by and send me a message on Discord. If I still have some of them, I got a deal for you. But I'm already making so much money, I don't need to make the top dollar on it. To me, there's more benefits for me moving it other ways, but I have that figured into my thought process whenever I make the purchase. Really, the bottom line though is use all the resources that are available to you that make sense, that are efficient for you, and don't devalue your time. Understand that time is money, and the longer it takes for you to turn over those cards, that's your opportunity being missed to buy the next thing or move that money onto something else. I'm also going to link a video because I feel like I talked about like some of this before, so I will put that somewhere here so y'all actually get access to it and can follow up on understanding. I was pretty much telling people why the average person doesn't make the most money off of the collections, because a lot of people just don't know all the little pitfalls along the way. Another thing I want to mention too is you should do some research before you go and make the final offer or purchase. As an example, a lot of people, especially if you started playing, let's say in the last 10 or 12 years, you're not going to be that well versed on things from Tempest Block or Mirage Block, like the stuff I bought this past week or whatever, right? So there's the possibility that you would miss a lot of things in those collections not knowing what's valuable or not. So you can go to sites like MTG Price, MTG Stocks, like they would be able to help you out and at least just put in the set and just scroll down and look at like commons and uncommons and understand what's there that you may not know about. You're going to be just straight shocked a lot of times because you're going to see cards that are uncommons that are worth $25, $30, right? That you didn't even know were worth anything. Hell, some of them you may not even know existed till you saw the name and clicked on it. And that's the reason I always tell people, like, it gets easier over time once you know what you're looking for, and you've done it a few times and you get used to looking through it. But the truth is, you need to take your time to understand what you're buying. Don't just look and say, oh, these are old cards, I'm going to buy them. Like, understand, like, you might be looking at old cards, but are they old and a bunch of commons that are worthless, or are they old and a bunch of commons that are worth a bunch? Makes a very big difference, because as an example, the Tutors and Mirage are uncommons, but they are very valuable. A lot of people just have those sitting around. There might be multiples of those, and even though there's no rares in the collection, if I can identify quickly that there's enough quality commons and uncommons, I still might be interested in buying it. And then one last thing that I think goes unforgotten or unmentioned a lot, I get a lot of return deals. And what I mean by that is, every single time I buy something from someone, I always make sure to let them know that, like, hey, if you're ever interested in selling other cards or you come across any more, feel free to reach out to me. Sometimes we've already exchanged cell phone numbers or whatever. Sometimes we just have each other's contact info through the apps or whatever, or websites. But either way, just make them aware that I am an active buyer. Like, leave a positive impression, make it an easy, clean transaction for them so they know, hey, last time I had stuff, I was able to dump it quickly to this person. And I've had so many people reach back out because they had a friend, cousin, whatever. Maybe they're going through an old storage unit, whatever. They end up calling me up and saying, like, hey, or texting me and saying, are you still interested? And like, absolutely I am. There's a gentleman I know who works with a company that helps clean out apartments when people move out. Turns out people leave magic cards behind sometimes. So who does he think to call? This guy. Mostly because he knows it's going to be quick and easy. He doesn't have to learn anything about them. He just got to keep some junk he found in a closet, and he's going to make $100-200. Even if I'm paying below value, he's still going to be making a whole lot of extra money for no extra work. And I've driven to his work site before and bought them from, so he didn't even have to drive to me just to make it easy on him. Right? So it really just depends on the offers and what's out there. But making those relationships really, really makes an impression, and it can make your job easy. Now, that being said, it's not like it happens a ton. It might be a couple of times a year, but even if it's just twice a year, if each of those is worth $500 or $600 to me, well, that's over $1,000 just from being nice to somebody and doing a quick pickup. And then finally, don't think you have to buy everything. Like, if a deal just isn't good enough, it's not good enough. Like, even if you haven't bought anything for a while, like, I mean, I've done stretches where I haven't bought anything for half a year. That's fine. If no great deal comes along, or it's not a deal I think I can make any decent money on, not interested. Now, occasionally, if it's a thing I think I can make a quick flip and make $200 or $300 on minimal effort, sure, I'll take it and do it, even if I'm not that interested in it, because I know it's low effort. But if it's something I know is going to take time to get that $200 or $300, I may not be that interested, depending on how much work goes into it. So you have to figure in what's good for yourself, and it's okay. Like I said, I've gone 90 minutes out of my way to go do a deal. We couldn't agree on the price. I walked away. That's okay. Like, did I feel bad? A little bit. I wasted basically 3 hours going to them and back, but I didn't get stuck with something that was going to take me forever to move and have trouble recouping my cash. Another good example is before all these like Storage Wars shows or whatever came out, I had been going to storage auctions for, the better part of 10 years, I think. And I had never bought a storage locker, but I'd walked away with a lot of cards and D&D books and other nerd things that I wanted. The way I did it was literally I would just wait till somebody else bought a locker, say for like $1,000, and then I'd just look and offer them like $200 to $300 for a couple of Rubbermaid bins that I could identify maybe had some nerd stuff in them. And they were happy to just get rid of it because they bought it because of some like big 4-post bed or some crazy appliances or electronics or whatever they saw in there. And that's the other thing. I didn't have to try to get into these bidding wars, these lockers, because I knew I didn't want or need the time or the effort for the rest of it. Even if it was worth money, it wasn't my expertise. It was going to take me too long to move. I was going to have to store stuff. I was going to clean stuff out, whatever. And the same thing kind of applies here. It's that whole only buy what you can afford to buy that you want to mess with or whatever. If it's not a good buy for you, it's just not a good buy. Don't buy things and put yourself in a worse situation, whether that's time, money, whatever, than where you are now. Easy as I can put it. Like, if you can move it quickly and be valuable to you, great. And you can make money on it, awesome. But if it's going to put you in any harm's way to be out that extra money because you don't know if you can turn this stuff over in 2 or 3 weeks and make rent or something or whatever, don't risk it. You're just chasing a thing that's a maybe for a thing you have as a sure thing in hand. And I think that's it. I think that covers all the major tips. Be careful what you're buying, research your stuff, make sure you know what it is exactly you're getting, get practice, make connections. I think that sums everything up. But yeah, if you like this, let me know down below if you like these types of videos, this type of information. we can do more of these and I get stuff to you. Or if you have any questions, feel free to post those as well. If you have anything specific you want to ask, maybe a collection value, whatever you want to look at, toss that over into the Discord and we can talk about it. Otherwise, yeah, check out the other videos I have on these topics. I think it'll help you out a lot. But that's all I have for you for now. We'll see you next time.